Tuples and lists are the basic array types in Python. Tuples are immutable and lists are mutable. Tuples are created with the comma operator. I say t equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And I get a tuple with those 5 elements in it. And so element number 0 is the beginning of the list, and element number 4 is the end of the list. Of course, you can always get the end of the list with a -1, like that. I can take the length of the list. I can get the smallest element. I can get the largest element. And so I have a tuple. There's some confusion about how you create a tuple in Python. Sometimes it looks like you use the parentheses to create a tuple, because more often than not, you'll see it done like this to create the tuple. But in fact, it's the comma operator. And this is an important distinction, because if you want to create a tuple with one element, that won't do it. That creates an integer. The comma is required. The parentheses are for binding, and when you have a lot of elements separated by commas, the parentheses are convenient for that, and that's why you'll often see it that way. But in fact, if you wanted a tuple with one element, you create it like this. And now we have a tuple. Type T is class tuple. Lists are created with square brackets. Now I have a list. Type of X is class list. Lists work very much like tuples in that I can subscript it in the same way, or I can look at the last one, and I can check its length, and I can get the largest element and the smallest element. The difference is that I can change things. If I take my tuple, and let's put something bigger in the tuple, now I have a tuple with 25 elements in it, and that is a tuple. Let's say that I try to change one of those elements. I get this error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. Tuples are immutable, so I can't change things in them. On the other hand, if I create a list, I'm using the list constructor here to convert this range into a list. And there's my list, and type of X is class list. And I can say X sub 10 equals 42. And now we see that 42 right there in the list. So a list is mutable and a tuple is not mutable. So why would you want to use a tuple when you can use a list, and the list is more powerful and it has more functionality? Tuples are there because more often than not, when you need them, you don't need to be changing them. It's a smaller class. It's simpler to implement. They're faster for some things, but most importantly, they don't allow you to change stuff. And so if you have a circumstance, and most circumstances are like this, where you need an object that's always going to stay the same size, it's always going to have the same data in it, you want to use a tuple so that you can't accidentally change it. And if you do, you'll get an exception and you'll be able to find your problem. So use your tuples where you can, and where you absolutely need to be able to change your array, that's where you use a list.